All right, summer is here, and so I thought I would just do a quick video to talk about some of the ways that I have my kids entertain themselves over the summer and why I don't feel guilty about it and why you shouldn't either. Let me go into just some of the ways that I get my kids. My kids are currently 7 and 9, so some of these tips are maybe for kids that age. You can use them for kids a little bit younger as well. But just wanted to share with you some of the ways that I keep my kids entertained in the summer while I'm working on my business. All right, number one is I get my kids outside. We've actually already started this. I'm super, super lucky to have incredible neighbors. So it is literally just like neighborhood playtime. We actually started a group text thread of all the parents of all the kids in our neighborhood. And we just status update, they're in my backyard, status update, they're in the cul-de-sac, status update, they're upstairs in our playroom, whatever. And so we just have this ongoing thread with all the neighbors. It takes a village sometimes. And so if you have neighbors, that's awesome. If not, that's okay too. Just get your kids outside. I think one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome is that it's actually not just okay for my kids to be bored, that it is good for them to be bored. If you remember back to when you were a kid and some of the most creative fun that you had, maybe some of the trouble you got into also, yes, but some of the most creative fun that you had was probably when you were just hanging out outside when you were bored. Don't rob your kids of that. It's something that we literally purposely sometimes tell our kids, go outside for an hour. We will sometimes even set a timer just so they know I need to stay outside for an hour and figure out something to do. And I think it's actually awesome for our kids' creativity. All right, the second thing that I do to get my kids to entertain themselves over the summer months is to really engage them in creative play. So again, this is great for younger kids too. It's like you give them the resources to do something awesome, but don't necessarily give them exactly what to do with it. When my kids were really young, I would literally give them a colander and pipe cleaners, and man, my 2 and 3-year-olds could sit and play with that for 30 minutes. It was crazy. Or just a big bowl full of rice, which is really messy, but also really fun for a kid just to play with. Now that's when they were younger. Now that they're older, I'll just give them supplies. So again, paint, art of any form. My kids are really into making movies right now. Now, again, this only works for some kids, but sometimes I will let them have my phone and say, hey, go and make a movie. I want to see the movie that you make at the end. And they will just create the coolest movies. And it's just a way to get that creative nature going inside of them. So again, sometimes I get them started a little bit of hey, here's an idea. What if you made a movie about a brother and sister who are lost in the jungle? Here's my fun phone, go make it, right? And they will. And so that's just another way that I try to get creative play into their day-to-day. Seriously, just a stack of white paper and markers go a long way. I almost always have in the car even just a fun bag. And so if we're out running errands and my kids are I'm bored, boom, paper, markers, let's go. All right, let's talk a second about screen time. Now, I know some people are no, I never get my kids in front of screens. I am gonna raise my hand and say, I am a mom that does not feel guilty about putting my kid in front of a screen at times with limits, right? I think that, I know me, I love to just veg out sometimes. And I think that it's actually really okay for your kids to have some downtime. I also think that there's a lot of things that you can do on screens that we didn't have the opportunity as for kids. For instance, my son downloaded this free coding app and he's learning how to code. My daughter does a lot of those coloring apps where you can just color on an iPad, and it's getting that creative nature out. I think that especially my kids sitting down and watching a movie in the summer, they're sitting next to each other, brother and sister bonding time, all about it. I watched TV as a kid and I think I turned out pretty okay myself. And I think that, personally, we set limits around it. I don't usually do screens first thing in the day because I just noticed my kids really don't act well if I do that. But as a reward later in the day, after, we've said, hey, we're going to play outside, then we're going to do some art, then we're going to do lunch, then we're going to read, then we're going to watch a movie together, I think is a really great way to like set their eye on the prize and to have some downtime, which is a really great way for you to be able to get some work done as well. All right, number 4 is using schedules and timers. My kids operate so well off of a schedule. So literally it like excites them to know what's happening in the day, and it just helps the day go so much more predictably. So for us, what I'll do is I literally will print out like a summer schedule, and on Monday we're going to do this for this chunk of time, this for this chunk of time. And again, that could be art, that could be that we're going somewhere that afternoon to the park. It could be that now we're going to do lunchtime, now we're going to do screen time, now we're going to play with a neighbor, you're going to go over to their house on Monday, they'll come to our house on Wednesday. This schedule gives my kids something to look forward to. Also, my son is very visual, and so we bought this little magnetic timer. I can actually link to it below, but he's able to like take it with him. He'll stick it on anything that is metal, right? So like outside, he'll stick it on the garage, or inside we have like this nail thing that's metal that he'll stick it on. And so he can visually see the countdown timer, which really helps him know, okay, like mom wants me to play outside for an hour, or we're going to spend 30 minutes doing art. And that visual really, really helps him and gives him kind of that goal to work for. So that's really been helpful for us. And I think utilizing the schedule to build in time with your kids too, because obviously like you want to be spending time with your children, but also getting what you need to get done as well. And so if your kids are asking, Mom, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Not just saying, oh, later, or I don't have time, but yes, I do. And we're going to do Legos together at 3 o'clock. Remember, it's on the schedule. Again, that really helps my kids and helps me too, to set those boundaries to know, hey, this is when I'm going to be working. This is when I'm going to be balancing my kids. Yeah. Because honestly, I know myself. And sometimes when I can get into working, I can get so focused on it that it's easy for me just to be like, okay, yeah, kids, sure, or my kids can be asking me so many questions that I'm not really getting really good quality deep work done. And so for me, a big thing with the schedule, what it helps is it lets my work time be work time and my kid time be kid time. So I can be fully present with both, because I don't want to be distracted when I'm with my kids. I want to be fully present. I want to be with them. I want to be having fun with them, right? So if I know, hey, at this time, my computer is shutting down, it's not only good for them, it's good for me too, to set those boundaries with work so I can close that down and be fully present with my kids. All right, and then number 5, don't feel guilty. This has been a big one. Honestly, my kids are 7 and 9 right now, and I think since day 1, I've had to battle mom guilt. And for me, some of the things that I've talked about letting your kids play outside, letting them have independent play, how it's so good for your kids to be creative, to have that schedule so there's good boundaries both for you and for them. These have all helped me in that battle of feeling guilty. I think that like my kids love me. The fact that they are climbing on top of me all the time indicates how much they love me, right? And so I think for me, it's more of a mental game that I play with myself, thinking like, oh, my kids think this, or I'm not doing enough of this, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough. And that's just not true. You are enough. I am enough, not only for my kids, but that I am showing my kids something really important by having other things that I'm pursuing, and by pursuing a business. Them getting to see me go after my dreams is actually really, really good for them. I've also really leaned into not feeling guilty asking for help. So again, like if my kids are gonna go to their grandma's house for the day, or if we do a babysitting swap where it's like, hey neighbor, my kids could come to your house on Monday and your kids will come to my house on Wednesday. It gives me that set apart time. And yes, I'm not physically with my children, but like during those times, I've had to tell myself, especially if they're with people that I know and that I trust, right? Like there's nothing wrong with my kids having more people in their life who love them, right? And so giving them opportunity to hang out with grandma or grandpa, or, with a neighbor who's a good influence in their life, like that is a positive thing. And so that's really helped me, is that knowing that I don't have to be the only adult loving adult in their lives who influences them. So that's been another helpful tip for me. All right, that's it. Those are my best tips for keeping your kids entertained while you are working on your side hustle. If you don't already know, I teach people how to start virtual assistant businesses, which in my opinion is the very best side hustle for moms. It's flexible. It allows me the freedom to be with my kids. It also provides awesome income working for yourself. So if that's something you're interested in, you should definitely check out my virtual assistant checklist and starter kit. I will link to it below, and I'll see you in the next video.